Everybody is doing well. Okay, so we are going to start a new chapter, which is chapter 10. And in this lesson, we are going to cover the following. So in this lesson, we are going to talk more about disease and hygiene. So we will see some example of pathogens and how the diseases can be transmissible from one person to another or from one host to another. And we will describe some ways in which these pathogens are spread. Okay, so pathogens and transmission. So what is a pathogen? So this is the definition of pathogen you have in your textbook. So a pathogen is actually a disease-causing organism, which is an organism which causes disease. Okay, a transmissible disease is actually a disease in which the pathogen can be passed from one host to another. So this one is called transmissible disease. It can actually move from one host to another host, from one animal to another animal, from human to human, or from animal to human also can. Okay, so pathogens will include a few organisms. So many bacteria. Bacteria you have pathogenic and non-pathogenic, viruses, fungi, and some other organisms like protista. We are going to see some examples here of bacteria which is causing disease. Like example, this what we call cocci or spherical bacteria. They have this shape, spherical shape. They are called coccus. So like here, staphylococcus, which cause boils, streptococcus cause sore throat. So when you have a sore throat, maybe you have this streptococcus. Streptococcus also, which cause pneumonia. And you have here rod-shaped bacilli, or they have this rectangular shape. They are called bacillus or bacilli. Like here you have the bacillus anthracis, which cause anthrax. You have here salmonella, which cause typhoid fever. This one, we will come back to this one. Then you have other types like spiral shape, like here treponema, which causes syphilis. This is actually a sexually transmitted disease. We are going to see again in chapter 16, inshallah. Then you have here coma-shaped bacterium or vibrio. Example, vibrio cholera. If you do remember, vibrio cholera actually is causing cholera. And this is some nice pictures taken for this bacteria. So here Staphylococcus aureus, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. This one is causing tuberculosis. It's called sul bil Arabi. Acinetobacter here. Then you have Pseudomonas. Okay, all this one you don't have to memorize, but I mean, just this is giving you example of some agent which cause disease. So pathogenic bacteria may cause disease by damaging the host cell, because bacteria will infect cells and it will cause damage to those cells. And or sometimes they produce poisonous waste product, toxin. Example, if you do remember the cholera toxin. Remember the cholera toxin? The Vibrio cholera will attach to the cells and will release this cholera toxin, and the cholera toxin will actually cause the diarrhea. So this toxin causes damage to the cell, okay, in which the bacteria are growing. They give rise to a raised temperature. The temperature will increase, can cause also headache. The person will be tired and weak, and sometimes can cause diarrhea and vomiting. Like you have the salmonella or vibrio cholera, they cause also diarrhea and vomiting. So toxins can be produced, for example, by this Clostridium bacteria. This one causes tetanus. So when sometimes you hurt yourself with something rusted or a piece of glass or piece of metal, you have to get the vaccination actually against this bacteria. If not, you will have this disease called tetanus, and a very amount of this toxin can be fatal actually. So the vaccination for this Clostridium bacteria can last for 10 years. So Last time I cut my finger, I got this vaccination. Okay, we will come back to this botulinous toxin in chapter 14. In chapter 14, I will explain this. So this is what this toxin is doing, is actually affecting the brain, the nerve cells. So between the nerve cells, actually, they should have an electrical signal passing from one cell to another. But this toxin actually is blocking that signal to pass. So this will cause muscles to be paralyzed. The diaphragm also can stop contracting and relaxing, and this can be fatal. Means you cannot breathe. Some example of viruses which can affect animals and human. You have the most famous virus now is the coronavirus, COVID-19. This one is called severe acute respiratory syndrome. You have measles virus, measles. This one we have already vaccination against. Varicella zoster virus or chickenpox. This one also there is vaccine against it. Influenza virus and HIV virus. Human immunodeficiency virus. This one we will come back to this one in chapter 16, inshallah. All right. So many viruses can cause diseases also in plant. You have the example here of what we call tobacco mosaic virus. So this one is tobacco plant. Okay, it will make cigarettes. There is a virus actually which affects this plant. It's called tobacco mosaic virus, and this is the structure of this virus. Okay. You have many viruses actually which affect plants. I like this one also. I choose this one, cucumber mosaic virus. There is if you see cucumber in this shape, means it is infected with a virus. Okay, you have also fungi which cause diseases in plant and in human. Okay, let's see the fungi which cause disease in plant. So we have usually most fungi, they are saprophytic, means they feed on dead organisms or on dead matter. So, but some fungi, they are parasitic, means they affect living organisms. So obtaining the nutrients from living organisms. So here you can see the hyphae of this, the hyphae from coming out from the plants. And you see the strawberry here. What you can see here is completely infected by the fungus. And what you can see here are the spores. The spores can spread to infect new virus, new strawberry or new fruit. So this one is called rust fungi. Example, you have this cordyceps fungi. This one is called cordyceps fungi, and botrytis mold. Okay, those affecting human, I choose here for I choose this example here. One group of this fungi is called tinea or ringworm. Ringworm, why is it called ringworm? Because it affects the skin and it will cause irritation and inflammation in the skin, and it's form this kind of ring here. Sometimes it can heal from the center, but the sides are affected, are inflamed, so it will make what we call ring. That's why they call it ringworm. Actually, this is the fungi. You can see the picture of the fungi over here, and it can affect also the foot or the feet. So you can see what happened to the feet when you have this infection. Okay, so this one we call athlete foot. This disease here is called athlete foot. One form of the tinea is athlete foot, in which the skin between the toes become infected. This is actually a very advanced infection. So tinea is very easily spread by contact with infected towel or clothing. So if someone who has this infection, of course you are not going to wear or share the shoe of this person or anything belongs to this person. It's better not to share. Okay, how the pathogens are transmitted. I think you understand what does it mean. So especially with this, what we are ongoing now with this COVID-19. No shaking hand, no kissing. No. Okay, so the transmission of pathogens can be done directly or indirectly. Can be done by direct contact, means the bacteria can pass or virus can pass from one person to one person directly or indirectly. Example of direct contact, it can be through the blood and other body fluids like semen, saliva, sometimes even the milk when the mother is breastfeeding her baby. And example here of HIV. So like those drug addicts, when they share needles of course they are contaminated with blood. So when they share, when someone has HIV and use the needle, then pass it to someone else. So the other person will have also HIV. Anyone cleaning up dirty needles, he is at risk. For example, those for tattoo, for example, they are also using needles. If someone with HIV go to have his tattoo and the person is cleaning the needle to use it for another person, he can be infected. Surgeon carrying out operation, during the operation they can actually be infected if they come in direct contact with the blood of the patient. HIV can be passed also through semen or saliva. So this one usually during sex. All right. Indirect contact. So this one may involve, so this is which you have to be very careful. So here this may involve infection from pathogen on contaminated surface and or during food preparation. All right, let's say, for example, I am sure you are doing this every day in your home. Every day you get meat and you cut the meat to cook it. Okay, now you are using this cutting board to cut meat, and without washing it, you will use it to cut your salad, for example, your lettuce or your carrots, and this one will not be cooked. You will be eat it without cooking. So if your meat has any bacteria here, means your cutting board is contaminated with bacteria. And if you put directly your uncooked food, then you may have a infection or food poisoning. So the meat here will not be affected because you are going to cook it. So when you cook, the raw meat carry bacteria which are killed if the meat is adequately cooked. But if you are using this same board to cut your salad, that is very dangerous. So if you use your cutting board for meat, you should not use it to cut your raw vegetables, which you are not going to cook later. Okay, and the people who are handling, let's say now you are handling meat, you cut the meat, you put it in your pot, then you touch the cabinet, you touch the other things without washing your hands. So you have actually practically contaminated whatever you touch, you contaminated with bacteria because your hands have been contaminated. So when you handle meat, you have to wash your hand with soap to kill any bacteria. So here the person handling the food is also a potential vector of disease. If she does not wash their hand, he or she, after using, for example, toilet, moving rubbish, or handling raw products. Example like here meat or chicken or fish. So you have to wash your hand. Okay, so we have an example here of diseases we can have in this way if we don't wash our hand here and we handle food. So you can have the salmonella food poisoning. So these bacteria live in the intestine of cattle, chicken, and ducks without causing any disease. So but in human, if this bacteria get into human, it will cause actually poisoning. If they drink milk, for example, milk from cattle, which is contaminated with this salmonella, because sometimes the salmonella can be found in the feces. So if like here, the udder of the cow is contaminated with feces, means sometimes the cow sits on their feces, so it will be contaminated. if the person who is milking the cow is not, it doesn't clean properly the udder here, means the milk will be contaminated with salmonella. And somewhere, if you drink raw milk, you don't cook it, you don't pasteurize it. If you drink the raw milk, you have a high chance to be contaminated with this bacteria. Okay, or sometimes even from egg, because the chicken also can have, and ducks can have this bacteria. Means if the egg is contaminated with this feces from the chicken, so the egg also have bacteria. Let's say you touch the egg, after that you touch your bread and eat bread without washing your hand, so you may have contamination. Okay, so as you can see, washing hand is very, very important. So the symptoms of this food poisoning are diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and they occur within 12 to 24 hours after eating the contaminated food. Salmonella can be easily killed when you cook or your milk, or your meat, or pasteurize your milk. So it's very easy. Please don't drink raw milk, because it can have other bacteria, not only salmonella. It can have also the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the bacteria which cause tuberculosis, and this is also quite dangerous. Okay, so also when you defrost, you take, I'm sure you all buy meat and freeze it. Then you want to cook. Some people or some ladies, they actually don't even defrost the chicken. They put it, or meat, they put it directly in the pot. That is very wrong. Why? Because when it's frozen and you put it directly in the pot, only the outer layer here or outer part will be cooked, but the inside of the chicken will be still uncooked. Then the bacteria inside will be still alive, so it will cause also a contamination of the food. So salmonella bacteria and also can cause what we call typhoid, which are present in feces. So salmonella can be present in feces of infected people. If someone has salmonella, he can be infected. Of course, he can get it in his feces, and let's say he recover. He recover, but the bacteria still, he still have some bacteria in his feces. Let's say this person actually use the toilet, but he doesn't wash his hand and prepare food with those hands, dirty hands. So he may pass the bacteria to other people who are healthy, and this is quite dangerous also. So people who handle and prepare food, they have extremely to be very, very clean, extremely careful about their personal hygiene. Means they have to wash their hand when they handle meat, wash their hand when they go to toilet, etc. So hand washing is also important after handling raw meat, particularly poultry, means chicken, ducks, etc. So food on display in shops need also to be protected, because some people can sneeze on it, can cough on it, and it will be contaminated. So some people, like I said, they can be carrier. They can be carrier, means they can carry the bacteria without symptoms. So these people, they are not allowed to be to cook or to handle food, because they can, if they are not clean, they can pass the disease to other people. Once identify these people, they should not be allowed to work in canteens or food processing factories. And the best example you have of this lady, this is, by the way, is not included in your syllabus, but I just wanted to show you this one. So I hope all of you will be aware of how important to be clean, especially when you use the toilet, if you are dealing with food. Okay, so this lady, she's known as the typhoid lady, typhoid Mary. Her name is Mary Malone. She was in New York, and she used to be a cook. And this lady was a carrier for salmonella, but she didn't know it because she doesn't have any symptoms. She was perfectly healthy, and she used to be a cook. And wherever she go to any family where she cook for any of those families. The member of those families they will feel sick with typhoid. Okay, so after few families fell sick, so and there was even 2 fatalities after that. So someone started to investigate to see what I mean, why these people are dying or having these infections. They found out that lady is actually the common factor. She was working in their houses as a cook. When they investigated, they found that she is carrier for salmonella, and they told her, the courts actually told her to find another job, not to work as a cook. But this lady started to work as a maid, but she didn't like it because the salary was not too high. Then she decided to go back to cooking. Then when she started to cook again, actually a little girl died of typhoid, and then she was arrested and quarantined for almost 30 years, for the rest of her life. She quarantined. She was in isolation because she was viewed as criminal, because she knew, because the second time she knew that she has the disease, and she purposely actually didn't take care of her personal hygiene, especially when she using the toilet, and therefore she passed the bacteria to new people, to healthy people. This is very sad story, by the way. So contamination of water, you can have actually contamination. So this is another indirect way to get pathogens. So if the water is contaminated with feces of animals or feces of a human, and this water actually is used for drinking, so what will happen if the disease bacteria get into water supply used for drinking? So hundreds of people can become infected. More people will become infected. Like example here, typhoid and cholera. If you do remember cholera we get it when we drink contaminated water with human feces or animal feces. So to prevent this infection, drinking water needs to be purified and must be harmless, made harmless. And this is what the process called sewage treatment. So how do we treat the water? There is a very simple way. If you think that the water is not clean, so you just boil it. When you boil water, it actually kills all pathogen. You leave it to cool down, then you drink. It's very safe. Or use what we call a filter. On a large scale, water supply are actually to ensure that untreated sewage cannot reach them, and treating the water to make it safely. So how they do? They use filtration and chlorination. They filter the water. I'm sure that most of you they have filtered, but the water we receive already in the tap is already filtered, but still need to be filtered furthermore. And chlorination. So filtration process, number one, filtration process. The water is passed through bed of sand. So here you have bed of sand, charcoal, gravel, etc. So the water will be poured in it, then you are going to collect it. But is it enough? Actually here we just remove the impurities, but we didn't remove the bacteria. So in those water sewage plants, they have actually big actually plant when they use water to filter water, and there they use some harmless bacteria or protozoa to filter the water. So this produce a gelatinous film which act as a filter to remove pathogens. And so number two, they have to add chlorine gas. This is actually a plant of water where they treat water. So this is, you can see a big tank of chlorine gas. So the chlorine gas is added to the filtered water to kill any bacteria which remain after filtering. So there, after that, most of the chlorine actually will disappear before the water will reach the consumer. All right, and the water will be kept in this big tanks here, uh, so to protect it, and or this reservoir or water tower. Okay, so waste disposal, when we just simply throw the food, so what that food will actually attract, it will attract what we call uh, rodents here. For example, it will attract vermin. We call them vermin. Vermin means all the rats, birds, insects, dogs, cats. So all these animals will be attracted by this food, and it will be contaminated, of course. So these animals will pass the germs to other people. So the food or any waste has to be thrown in dustbins properly with the lid. So it has to have a lid so the animals cannot reach it, or the flies, mosquitoes cannot reach it. Okay, contamination by house flies. So house fly, you can see how small, but it can actually transmit or many diseases. So flies walk on the food. So flies walk on the food and also walk on the dirty places. So there, as you can see here, their feet is contaminated with the bacteria found here, for example. So here and somewhere their mouthpiece, they will inject their saliva inside the food, then they will suck it back. So they will inject some bacteria, then suck the bacteria back, etc. So the house can actually transmit a lot of diseases, especially they can actually, this would not matter. Okay, here they can visit also some decaying food or some human and animal feces. Imagine the fly fall on the feces, then come onto your food, then your food is already contaminated. So they may pick up bacteria on their feet and mouth parts, and there are about 65 diseases transported by or transmitted by flies. So you have to be very careful. You have always to cover, if you leave any food on the table, you have to cover it so the flies cannot fall on it. Okay, so this is just to show you here how the flies can actually touch animal feces, human feces, and the bacteria can be in their mouth parts, in their on their legs, on the hair covering the body, and also in their feces. So this is how the flies can actually transmit diseases from animal to human. And we have this ringworm. This is I talk in the first slides. So tinea. So this one also is making patches or of inflamed tissue and make. So that's why they call it ring. You can see it better here. All right. It's on the skin infected patch spread outward and heal in the center, giving the ring-like appearance. But this tinea can also affect your hair and your scalp. Then it will make bold patches. It's spread by using infected hairbrush. If someone has this, please don't share hairbrush, comb, pillow, towel, or any belonging to this person. Okay, it can also affect the feet or the foot. So usually this is what we call athlete foot. So by wearing infected socks, shoes, or from floor or showers and swimming pools, also we can have this contamination. So all these forms of dystonia are very contagious. So when an infection is diagnosed, the clothing, the bed lining, the linen, the infected hairbrush, comb, towel, everything has to be boiled to destroy the fungus. If some person are having this infection, they can actually get this treatment like fungicide. Fungicide is actually a disease medicine, which drug to kill fungus, or dusting powder to be applied, or they can have this solution of potassium permanganate. This one they can get from doctor. So if you see this, if you notice anything like this, please you have to check with your doctor. There is this amoebic dysentery also, can be also transmitted by insects also, or from human to human, but indirectly. So this is due to what we call this Entamoeba histolytica, is a species of small amoeba that live in the intestine, and in certain condition, it can cause ulceration, bleeding, and vomiting and diarrhea. And when it causes vomiting and diarrhea, it will lead to, of course, a loss of water. And when we have loss of water, you have dehydration. And if it is untreated, what will happen? Kidney failure, and it can lead to death. So how did they treat it? Is a mixture of water, salt, and sugar. So simple. So this is very simple, effective, and inexpensive treatment. Is called oral rehydration therapy. Also, there are drugs to attack this amoeba actually. So the feces of infected people contain amoeba, which if they reach food or drinking water can infect other people. So here again is to be very careful. And here the airborne droplet or aerosol infection, those which are through air or droplets. And this is the case of COVID-19. So when we sneeze, you can see this person here sneezing. This is using a very sophisticated camera. When we sneeze, we release thousands of droplets. Or when we cough also, we release thousands of droplets. Those droplets, the larger one, can fall on the surfaces, but the lighter one can remain in the air for some time. Okay, so here airborne, droplets, and aerosol infection. When we sneeze, we cough, we laugh, we speak, or just breathe out. When you do all this, we are going to send fine spray of liquid drops in the air. And this is what they are suspecting, that COVID-19 is actually transmitted these ways by even by droplets through breathing. Okay, not necessarily to sneeze or laugh, or cough, but also by breathing out or just by talking. So they must be breathed in by other. They may breathe if you have another person over here. That person can be, let's say here you have COVID-19, this person will get it automatically. Okay, if the droplets contain virus or bacteria, they may cause disease when they are eaten with food or inhaled. Okay, so virus diseases such as cold, like cold, flu, measles, chickenpox, all they are transported this way. Okay, the highest velocity of a sneeze around 10 meter per hour. So when you sneeze, is actually is 10 meter per hour or 4.5 meter per second. A single sneeze can send about 100,000 germs into the air. Imagine you sneeze 3 times or 4 times. Okay, I will send you this video. I don't want to play this video here. Is about 5 minutes, but I will send it to you. You play this video, please. This video is from Japan Institute, explaining how the COVID-19 can be passed. Okay, so please, to stop spreading airborne pathogens, what do you need to do? You need to cough and sneeze in tissue or in your elbow. So, and when you sneeze, you have to, in a tissue, you have to throw the tissue away and you have to wash your hand. Okay, this is very important. Okay, the end. So I will